So welcome everyone to tonight's webinar. This is the first in our Evaluating Resources webinar series. And the title is, What is this stuff? Identifying Materials in the Walden Library. My name's Emily Adams. I am one of the reference and instructional librarians here at the Walden Library. And joining me tonight is Trish Pearson, another one of our fabulous reference and instructional librarians. So we're excited to get into this stuff. This stuff matters to us, and we think it also matters to you. That's why we're sharing this. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off my webcam for now and get started with the presentation. So our goal tonight, I always jump ahead. So as I said, we're doing a series on how to evaluate resources in the library. Tonight, we're going to just go over the nitty-gritty of what are you looking at so that you know what to do with it. In a month, we'll do one on evaluating resources, the 3 Ps of evaluation. So we'll talk primary versus secondary sources, popular versus scholarly resources, and peer review. And then in July, we'll talk about when to use what you find, how to evaluate library materials to know when to use them. And then the last one in August, we're going to talk about stuff that you find on the internet. And that's a big topic and a lot of fun actually to talk about. So please do join us for these other webinars if you have a chance. At the end, we'll show you where you can go and register for these. And now on to our goal and objectives for tonight. So our goal really is to help you identify all of the materials that you'll see in the Walden Library. And you may ask, why do I care? It really does matter if you're asked to turn in a journal article, a peer-reviewed journal article, and you give somebody a book chapter. Those are not the same thing, and you may lose points on that. And similarly, if you're looking for a scholarly source and you end up with a newspaper article, the newspaper articles aren't scholarly. So it really is important to be able to look at what you've found and figure out what it is so that you know how to use it appropriately. So tonight we are going to talk about locating and identifying, just identifying journal articles, books, dissertations, encyclopedias, and newspaper articles. So those are our focus. I'm going to throw out a disclaimer here that we are not the APA people. That's the Writing Center. So we do share some citations on our slides. If they're not correct, sorry, but talk to the Writing Center if you have questions about APA. And I did link to their information here on the slide. So with that, let's get started. Journal articles. This will probably be the type of material that you'll see most often and that you'll be required to find most often throughout your studies at Walden. A lot of the sources that you use for your discussion posts and for your assignments, if you're a dissertation level, for your dissertation literature review, it's a lot of journal articles. That's just where the research is often published. So it's really important that you are able to tell that what you're looking at is a journal article. And I want to point out here at the top of my screen, I have a citation for a journal article. And a couple of the things that really set apart journal article citations are the fact that there are 2 titles. So there's one not italicized, there's one just straight up, and then there's the italicized title. The first one is the title of the article, and the second one, the italicized one, is the name of the journal. So if you see 2 titles in your citation that you found, you can start thinking, hey, this might be a journal article. And then what you'll look for are the numbers, the volume and issue numbers. Pretty much journal articles are the ones that are going to have these extra numbers because they are published periodically and you need to know which specific issue you're looking at, and for that you do need a volume and issue number. And then also journal articles don't generally take up the entire thing. So you'll have page numbers. Here we have 107 to 118. So those are the pages where you would actually find that journal article. So those are the things to look for when you have a citation, when you have a reference citation and we're thinking, hey, what exactly is this? If you see those two titles, volume and issue number, page number, pretty good chance that's a journal article. But let me show you and let me look at the flip side. So I'm going to go into the library databases and run a search. Actually, I've already run the search, but I just want to show the library homepage. And what I do is I'm just going to, for example's sake, type in social change and education in the Thoreau search box at the top of the page. And that'll open up some search results. And as I'm looking through these, since I'm talking about journal articles, I'm going to scroll down to see one. Now, in some of our databases, you will see that it says academic journal over on the side, or it says ebook. So that's a pretty good hint. But if that isn't there in the particular database you're looking at, you can come here to this section below the title and you'll see, okay, I've got the title of my articles right here. I've got another title right here. I've got a year, I've got a volume, I've got issues, I've got page number. So those are good signs that this could be a journal article. If you're still not sure, you can always click on the title of an article in the databases, and they'll generally tell you straight up. It'll say document type, article. So that's another good hint that this is an article, this is what I found. And you can look through the information about it and you'll see again, you've got your journal title, your date, your volume, issue, page number. So those are all things that you look for in journal articles. Now, are there any questions about journal articles, being able to identify them before I move on to books? Because I'm going to talk about books for a bit.
I am not seeing any questions.
Sweet. Okay, then let's talk books. We just saw our journal articles, and now we have books, and we see right off the bat a couple big differences. One is we just have one title. That's all we have. We also have a location, which we did not have before. And we have a publisher, which is also something we did not have for our journal article. So these are all signs that this is a book. It's got these editors, that's what the EDS stands for, and then just one title, a location, and then the publisher. And that's a pretty standard book citation. So let me go back to my search that I did. And go back to my result list and look at one of these books. I think we'll just do this first one. So again, EBSCO makes it easy. It says right here it's an ebook. But as I look through this, I'm not seeing another title in here. I see a publication group. I see a total number of pages, but not like a page range. And again, I saw a place. So again, good indication that this is a book. This is not a journal article. And up here in the title, it even gives me an edited. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this one just to show. And again, as I scroll down, I can see publication type book. So that generally makes it pretty easy and straightforward when you're in the databases. So with that, I'm going to talk about, we're going to move through these pretty quickly, unless there are questions, and Trish can jump in. With that, I want to talk about book chapters. Now, book chapters are slightly more tricky than straight-up journals or straight-up books. So book chapters also have two titles. So I see up here, Foreign Policy and Social Change, that's my chapter title. Foreign Policy in the Developing Nation is my book title, and I have a page range. So that's kind of similar to a journal article, and having two titles is similar to journal article. But then there are things that are not similar. So for example, I've got two authors going on here, which you you can have multiple authors for journal articles, but they'll both be right together. It'll just list them out. Ness, comma, Butwell, comma, Smith, comma, whatever. They'll all be at the front. But on this one, it's got one author, and then the title. Then it says in, and then it's got another, in this case, this is an editor. It's got an editor, and then the book title. And then it does give you page numbers because this is just a section out of the book. Another thing you can look for is this Lexington, Kentucky, University Press of Kentucky. Those you don't find in a journal article. So that's another good indication that this is not a full book. It's just a part of the book, but it's definitely not a journal article because it has all this other information that you would not find in a journal article citation. So again, let me jump back over to the library website, and I'm going to actually go into this book that I pulled up and just show you what the book chapters look like and why you have different information for book chapters. So once you go into a book in the library, this is just one example. So you scroll down, you'll see the table of contents. And I'm going to go to part 1 and show the subject sections. So you'll see that you have different titles. So you need that chapter title to be able to identify it. But generally, you also have a different author for each book chapter. So in that way, it's kind of like a lot of these scholarly books are kind of like a journal with different articles published in it. It's just it's a whole lot bigger and may not be peer reviewed, but it's the same kind of idea as a journal article with a book chapter to a book. And let me just go ahead and click on this so we can see what the book chapter looks like. Hopefully I picked a good example. Yeah, so I've got chapter 1, and again I have these authors. So they are the ones that wrote this particular chapter, but they are not the authors of the book that are listed over here, or not all of the authors or editors of the book that are listed there. Okay, so that's what I wanted to talk about with book chapters. Are there any questions before I pass it over to Trish?
I am not seeing anything.
Awesome. Then I'm going to let Trish talk about dissertations.
Okay, let me get into the PowerPoint. Okay, so what I am going to do is show you some other fun things that you can find in the library. And it looks like we might actually have a question about one of yours, Emily.
Yeah, I just saw that. So the question is, do you only use the name of the authors in the chapter? So Trish, if you want to go back to my slide for book chapters, slide 8, hopefully.
There we go.
There we go.
No, it's
The other
have to go
direction.
through the whole thing. Sorry.
No worries.
I can never get it to go backwards, so we have to start at the beginning and go through. Okay, book chapters, right?
Yeah, so with book chapters, it is important that you list. So the first author is definitely going to be the author of the book chapter. So that specific chapter. But then you'll see it says in, and then it has other author or authors, oftentimes editors in this case. So you do have to use both because it's important that you're able both to identify the chapter that you're looking for and who wrote it, but the book and who wrote that or who edited it. And if you do have questions about how to cite book chapters and books, the Writing Center really is awesome. They're really good at answering questions, all kinds of questions about APA. So hopefully that clears up. Okay, Trish, encyclopedias. Okay. Or no, dissertations, sorry.
Dissertations. You're getting ahead of things. Okay. So with dissertations, a lot of times they're pretty easy to identify because in the citation itself, it often is going to mention something about dissertations. Like you can see here, doctoral dissertation right there. So they tend to be a bit more kind of blatant. The other thing that you will see often is it's going to tell you that it's retrieved from ProQuest dissertation and theses databases, because that is like the main big dissertation database that we have here in the Walden Library. And that's often where you're going to be finding the dissertations from. So otherwise, it does have like the author, so the person who actually completed and wrote that dissertation, the year, that sort of thing, the title that you'll see in many other things. Often you'll have either a UMI number or just another sort of numbery thing that follows at the end. And those are just different ways that you can help identify dissertations when people are trying to track things down. So that's slightly different. Typically, you're not seeing things like page numbers, or definitely not like volumes or issues, because this is one big giant work that somebody has completed, so it's not part of something. And we'll go ahead and go look in the library. And I've already gone ahead and done a search in the ProQuest dissertation database. And you can see that we've got a bunch of results listed here. With this, if you're searching in the dissertation databases, something that kind of gives it away is you'll often see a name of a college. Like you'll see University of South Florida or Walden University, University of Illinois, whatever. You're often going to see that information listed in the sort of citation type information that's below the title. And then typically you're going to see that ProQuest dissertation publishing, because those are the people who are putting together this particular database. And we do have one that is just Walden information, and then this is the bigger one, which is all dissertations. So these are dissertations from like all over the place. I don't know, we could try a preview and see if that will work. These are typically really big files. If you click on the full text, it's going to open the entire giant dissertation, which can sometimes take a bit of time. Otherwise, when you open them up, you're going to see a title, the person, and you'll see right below that a dissertation submitted and partial fulfillment of requirements for whatever degree that particular person has gotten. In this case, a PhD in education, and they'll tell you College of Education, University of South Florida. So you'll see all that information about what school, what degree, et cetera, and then lists of the people who are on the chair and the committee. And so that is something that is totally different than any of the other kind of stuff you're going to be out there looking for in the library. So those are all things that are like a dead giveaway, that you are looking at a dissertation and not at a book or whatever sort of thing that you need. So, all right, are there any questions about dissertations?
Nope, I think you can move on.
Okay. Yeah, those are usually pretty straightforward, unlike some things like encyclopedias. So encyclopedias can be confusing because they can sometimes look a lot like book chapters. So you'll see here we have like the book chapters, we have two titles in this case. Social Change is the title of the entry. Encyclopedia of Anthropology is the title, but you'll see it also has that little in like book chapter. So sometimes people get confused with those. If it says something like Encyclopedia of Anthropology or Leadership or whatever, then that can be a dead giveaway there. But sometimes encyclopedias don't have encyclopedia in the name. In that case, you're like, is this a book chapter or not? Sometimes what they will do is if there's multiple volumes of an encyclopedia, they'll tell you like a volume number here, and then it'll be followed by page numbers. And typically, page numbers for encyclopedias are really, really short. It's going to be like 1 or 2 or maybe like 3 pages. And so that can help in differentiating between like a book chapter and an encyclopedia entry, because a book chapter is typically going to be a bit longer. But if you've ever, looked through encyclopedias, things are pretty short and sweet. It's like, here's the thing about social change, boom, boom. It's like a little overview, so it's not getting into like huge numbers of pages there. So if you look and you're only seeing like a couple pages, then that can point to it being an encyclopedia over a book chapter. And again, you're going to see that place where it's been published and then the publication company. In this case, Sage Publications. And they have huge numbers of encyclopedias out there. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that in one of the databases just because I think sometimes it can be a little easier when you're looking at it. So I've already done a search in the Sage Encyclopedias database, which is called Sage Knowledge, actually. And there are other things in there too besides encyclopedias, handbooks, etc. But if you go through, you'll see that it actually has that lovely little icon, and it will tell you encyclopedia. So you can go, okay, this is probably an encyclopedia. And here you're going to see things where it's going to be an entry in the encyclopedia, which is here. This is something on stewardship. And you can see it's found in the Encyclopedia of Educational Leadership and Administration. So if we go ahead and click on that, you'll see that it opens up, and that this is really pretty short. It's just going to tell you a little bit about stewardship, and then stewardship and servant leadership. So it's just kind of going through and giving you a little overview. And the search that I did originally was for servant leadership, and so this is why it's pulled this little part up. So you can see this is really, really super, super brief. They're giving you little references and things there, but not like the giant reference lists that you would see, in books or in journal articles. So again, it's once you look at the entry, it's usually pretty easy to go, oh, this is probably not a book chapter. This is probably an encyclopedia or the shortest book chapter ever in the history of mankind. So typically not so much. Alrighty, so did we have any questions about that before we move along to the next thing, which is newspaper articles?
Ooh, we love newspaper articles. Go for it.
All right, so newspaper articles, again, are like super short and sweet. They are a little bit different when you see the reference citation. You will notice that instead of just having a year, it's going to give you a date, because if you look at newspapers, typically they're published like every day of the week, or at least most days of the week. I mean, some of the print papers have gone to like dropping out like 1 or 2 days a week, but they're pretty, consistent. So they have to let you know which day that thing was published, because otherwise, if it just says May even, you could be looking through like 30 days of crazy newspaper articles, which could be quite a lot. So they're trying to help make it so that you can find the things fairly easily. So here you're going to see that it's got the title of the newspaper article, and then it's going to have the title of the newspaper itself. And sometimes that is kind of a dead giveaway, because it's something like the New York Times or, Washington Post or whatever, which are like the big, really common newspapers that are out there that people have heard of. So you can be like, okay. It will not have any volume or issue numbers. Sometimes it will have a page number. It just really kind of depends. And I don't know what the proper APA formatting for that is as far as page numbers, but I've seen them with both, either or. So that would probably be something where you'd need to double check with the Writing Center to make sure that you've got it in the right format. So we'll go ahead and pop into one of the databases where we've got newspapers, which is ProQuest Central. And I've done a search for social change. And you can see that there's kind of a variety of different things here. So you'll see the title of the article, below that, the author, and typically you're going to see like the name of the newspaper. So here, University Wire, Carlsbad, and you'll see like an actual date, so 16th of September 2015. And if we look down here, we can see that you'll see some that are like more distribution services for newspapers, and then also things like the Irish Times Dublin. And a lot of times they're going to give you a city too, just so that you know like which city it's being published out of. So you'll see this is another news service in Washington, the Advertiser, which is in Adelaide, South Australia. So a wide variety of things, Atlanta Journal, etc. So you're going to see these sort of newspapery names. That's usually a pretty good indication. And then all of these are going to have things like 23rd of February, or 10th of January 2008. So they're going to give you that full date so that you know exactly which date that was published in this newspaper, so that you can go back and find it without having to look through 30 days or more of a newspaper, which would not be fun whatsoever. And we can go ahead and just take a quick look at one of these. And you can see that these are typically, like I said, pretty darn short, So you'll see the full text is just listed out here. And this is the entire thing. So, and it will sometimes give you the word count. So 609 words, not an academic or scholarly journal. Those have way more words when you're looking at those particular things. So, alrighty. So that is what newspapers look like. Did we have any questions about that?
Nope, I think we're doing well.
Great. Okay, so I've got a couple other things just to point out to you guys as we go here. Since we didn't get into like how do you find all these crazy different things in the library, what we did is we have these different links that we've shared. So if you want to know like, well, how do I, if I want to find a dissertation, where do I find that? How do I find that? Where are the encyclopedias? How do I find that? How do I find newspapers? What these links will do is it'll walk you through how to do each of those different things. And these are all from our quick answers, which are kind of like frequently asked questions. And I can point out like where you can find that on the library website. So if you're on the library homepage, at the top right, there are some smaller tabs up here, and you'll see one for Get Help. If you click on Get Help and scroll down just a little bit, you'll see FAQ Quick Answers, and there's a little box, and it has how do I find, which is just the populated thing in there, but you can type in like any kind of thing. Like if you typed in dissertation, it would pull up like any of the questions with the answers that have to do with dissertations. So that's a really good fast way. If you've got like a basic question that you just boom, you want like a super quick answer, then that is a wonderful resource. We do always have Ask a Librarian service available. That's up here in the upper right corner. If you click on that, you can contact us through email. We have some chat hours, etc. So if you have other questions that are kind of more than what the quick answers can do, you can contact us that way. And a couple other things I wanted to point out are, go back to the main page, is we do have an evaluating resources guide. And if you're on that main library homepage, if you scroll down just a tiny bit, there's a fairly big button for library skills. So if you click on library skills, to the left, you'll see a box that says Build Library Skills. And under that, the first link is Library Skills Guides. And these are a lot of our different library guides, and these are alphabetically in order. So you'll see that there is a link for evaluating resources in that alphabetical list. And if you click on that, it will open the Evaluating Resources Guide. So if you have questions later about like, wait a minute, I don't remember, how do you tell the difference between encyclopedias and book chapters or newspapers or whatever, and we do have other things too, conference proceedings, etc. You can come here and you can find that information. And it will also walk you through a lot of other things too, like how to evaluate things, etc. Some of the things that we'll be getting into as we go through this particular series on evaluating resources. Alrighty. So, and I think I'm going to turn it back over to Emily unless we have any other questions.
I think we're good. Actually, could you show where to register for the other
Yes, I can do that.
evaluating resources?
Yes. Okay, so we'll go back all the way out. Whoop. To the main library homepage. All right, so on the main library homepage, there's a couple places you can go, but if you click on library skills, like we did to get to the evaluating resources guide, you will also see in the middle section, so next to build library skills, there's a box for webinars, and you'll see either upcoming or recorded webinars. So if you want to see upcoming webinars, you can go ahead and click on that, and you'll find like all of the stuff that's coming up that you can register for, or you can also find that just on the library homepage. It does go kind of by, they can only fit like so many things that are upcoming on here. So you have to click view all upcoming library webinars if you're not seeing the thing that you want, which in this case, you'd have to do that to get to the next. There we are, 3 Ps of evaluation. I think it only by default shows like 5 or 6 of the upcoming things. So you just have to click on that little more and you'll be able to see like all the stuff we've got coming up in the future, and you can go ahead and register for anything that looks interesting. Alrighty.
Awesome. Thank you, Trish. Okay. Actually, can you show the last slide, the test your skills slide?
Yes.
On PowerPoint. Okay, so with that, that's pretty much what we wanted to talk about tonight. So thank you for your attendance. Now, if you want to test your skills, you can stick around and we have a quiz for you.